Welcome to the Ultimate Sports Blog Podcast. Today is Thursday, April 12th, 2018. Today I'm going to recap last night's NBA action, which was the final night of the regular season. Pick round one of the NBA playoffs. I'll preview every series and pick all the series. I'm going to actually do a separate podcast predicting the entire NBA playoffs. I will go over two major NBA coaching firings that took place last night and this morning. Recaps last night's Stanley Cup playoff action. Look ahead to tonight's Stanley Cup action and pick the games. Recap Major League Baseball last night. Look ahead to today's games and do my Major League Baseball trade value rankings. NBA last night. The Knicks defeated the Cavaliers 110-98. The Cavs are now the 4th seed with this loss. They drop to 15-32, and that's where they finish the season. And the Knicks improved to 29-53, and they fired Jeff Hornacek after the game. I'll get to that a little bit while in the podcast. Luke Cornett had 23 in the win. John Holland had 21 in defeat. The Celtics defeated the Nets 110-97 to finish the year at 55-27. Brooklyn finishes the year at 28-54. Aaron Baines put up 26 in the win. Nick Stauskas put up 18 in defeat. The Heat defeated the Raptors 116-109 in overtime to get the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. Wayne Ellington put up 32 in the win. Kyle Lowry put up 28 in the loss. Miami finishes the season 44-38. Toronto finishes up at 59-23. The Magic defeated the Wizards 101-92 as the Wizards fall to the 8th seed and finish the season at 43-39. Orlando finishes the year at 25-57. Fired Frank Vogel this morning. I'll get to that later on in the podcast. Rodney Purvis put up 16 in the win. Jody Meeks put up 18 in defeat. The 76ers absolutely destroyed the Milwaukee Bucks 130-95 to clinch the 3 seed. All they had to do was win or the Cleveland Cavaliers would lose to the Knicks. They finished the year at 52-30. Milwaukee finishes the year at 44-38 and is now the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference. Justin Anderson put up 25 in the win. Jabari Parker put up 25 in defeat. The Pistons defeated the Bulls 119-87 as they finished the year 39-43. Chicago finishes 27-55. This could very well have been the final game of Stan Van Gundy's career in Detroit. Luke Kennard put up 23 in the win. Lauri Markkanen put up 20 in defeat. The Timberwolves defeated the Nuggets 112-106 in overtime to get the final playoff spot in the Western Conference. I had the Timberwolves on the podcast, not towards Maddie's picks. The pick I had towards Maddie's picks was Philadelphia. I was right there. Jimmy Butler, 31 points in the win. Karl Anthony Towns had 26 points and 14 rebounds. Nikola Jokic put up 35 in defeat. Minnesota finishes the year 47-35. Denver finishes the year at 46-36, and who knows, maybe Mike Malone is out the door because the Nuggets missed the playoffs, even though they finished 10 games over 500, but they're in the lottery, not in the playoffs. The Pelicans destroyed the Spurs 122-98 to improve and finish the year at 48-34. San Antonio finishes at 47-35. New Orleans is your 6th seed. San Antonio is your 7th seed. Drew Holiday put up 23 in the win. DeJounte Murray put up 11 in defeat. The Thunder defeated the Grizzlies 137-123. Now have home court advantage in the Western Conference playoffs and are your 4th seed. They finished the year 48-34. Memphis finishes at 22-60. Paul George put up 40 in the win. Dylan Brooks put up 36 in defeat. The Lakers defeated the Clippers 115-100. As they finished the year 35-47, the Clippers finished the year at 42-40. This could have very well been Doc Rivers' final game coaching the Clippers. Fascinating to see what happens to him. I'll get to Doc in a couple of minutes. Tobias Harris had 23 in defeat. Josh Hart had 30 in the win. The Trailblazers defeated the Jazz 102-93. I had the Blazers on the podcast. I was right. They finished the year 49-33. Utah finishes at 48-34. Utah is your 5. Portland's your 3. Damian Lillard put up 36 in the win. Donovan Mitchell put up 17 in defeat. Last but not least, the Kings defeated the Rockets 96-83. The Rockets rested a lot of players. They finished the year at 65-17. Sacramento finishes at 27-55. Willie Cauley-Stein had 22 in the win. Gerald Green had 31 in defeat. First round predictions. I'm going to go with the East first, and then I will do the West. 1 seed Toronto Raptors against 8 seed Washington Wizards. These two teams met in the playoffs 3 years ago, and Washington swept Toronto. Toronto, I believe, was a 4, and Washington was a 5 that year, as the Wizards put off the sweep and the upset. The Raptors are a much better team this time around, with the improvement of DeMar DeRozan. Kyle Lowry still playing at a high level. Serge Ibaka's on this team now. The next factor for them is Fred VanVleet, who's been pretty good for them coming off the bench. He left their loss against the Heat last night with an injury. Let's hope he's able to go. Jonas Valanciunas is a double-double possibility. And Washington's a better team this time around as Bradley Beal's matured, Otto Porter Jr.'s matured, John Wall's back healthy. Kelly Oubre could be an X factor for them. I don't think Marcin Gortat's the same player as he was a couple years ago. I think Markieff Morris is a good player for them, can play the 4 for them. This is going to be a very interesting series. The Wiz have a good backup point guard too. Give me the Toronto Raptors in 6 games to advance. I won't be surprised if this is 1-1 after 2 games, but the Raptors are the better team, although I think the best player in this series is John Wall. 2-seeded Boston Celtics against the 7-seeded Milwaukee Bucks. Poor Celtics. Kyrie Irving's out for the year. Jason Hayward, they haven't had pretty much the whole season. He's only played like 5 minutes into the season, and then he got hurt in Game 1 in Cleveland. He hasn't been seen since then. They have Al Horford, who's a good center. Is a good two-way center, too. Aaron Baines is a good player for them. Marcus Smart might be back for them. Marcus Morris is a nice player. Shane Larkin's been good for them off the bench. And the X factors for me for Boston are the 2 youngsters, the 2 lottery picks from their last 2 years, courtesy of the Brooklyn Nets, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. They have to play up the potential if the Celtics want to win. Milwaukee has the best player in the series, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. They have some nice above-average role players such as Chris Middleton and Jabari Parker when he's healthy. Thon Maker's turned into a fine player. Malcolm Brogdon's been a nice player for them off the bench. Eric Bledsoe, they traded for in the beginning of the season. He's fitted nicely for the Bucks. And I'm a little concerned with their bench. But you know what? Give me the Bucks. I'm picking an upset here. The Celts are going to miss Kyrie Irving a lot. If they had Kyrie, I'd say Celtics in 6. And that's too bad because this Celtics team, if Hayward and Irving were healthy, would have been the favorites to come out of the Eastern Conference. They're not healthy, so they're not the favorites. The X factor to me for Milwaukee is Jabari Parker, who's coming off that ACL injury. He's played pretty well in some games. I don't think he's there for the future, though, because him and Giannis are a weird fit together. But give me the Bucks in 6 games over the Boston Celtics to pull off a mild upset. 3-seeded Philadelphia 76ers against the 6-seeded Miami Heat. This is the best series of the Eastern Conference side of the first round. Philadelphia is a young and upcoming team led by studs Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. Simmons is your runaway favorite for the Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. Triple-double machine. He's not afraid of big moments. He's not afraid of LeBron. Joel Embiid's going to be back for this series. That's big for them. J.J. Redick's been in a ton of big games in his career. When he was on Duke and when he was with the Clippers most recently, too. Dario Saric has been a nice player for them. The X factor for Philadelphia for me is Markelle Fultz, who just recently come back from his injury, and he's actually given them some good minutes. Miami is in the playoffs for the first time in 2 years. Dwayne Wade came back in the midseason trade. They have a lot of good players. Hassan Whiteside, Goran Dragic, Josh Richardson. To me, the X factor for Miami is Justice Winslow, who's finally playing up to lottery pick hype after not really playing all that well in the beginning of his career. And part of that was because of injury, but Winslow's finally playing well. Another guy that's had a breakout year for Miami, Kelly Olynyk, who has turned himself into a fine player off the bench for them. Who knows, maybe he'll actually start for them in the playoffs. But I assume that the starting five for them is going to be Dragic, Richardson, James Johnson, Hassan Whiteside, and I guess Olynyk. That'd be a solid starting five. Or unless they start Wade and put Richardson at the 3 and Olynyk and Whiteside. I'm interested to see what lineup Eric Spoelstra starts with. This is going to be a fantastic series. But with home court advantage, the 76ers, I'm giving a slight edge over the Miami Heat. I won't be surprised if Miami wins this series because they have some big game players on their team. Dwayne Wade's not afraid of the moment, as he's proven throughout his entire career. I mentioned Hassan Whiteside. If he protects the rim and scores as he's capable of, and he's a good rebounder too. And the other case against Philadelphia is Embiid's health. But I'm banking on Embiid coming back, so give me the Philadelphia 76ers in 7 games. 4-seeded Cleveland Cavaliers against 5-seeded Indiana Pacers. The Pacers are the biggest surprise in the NBA this season. Everybody thought they'd be among the worst teams in the league. A lot of people thought that the Pacers would be like where the Knicks and the Magic and the Kings and those teams are, like in the high 20s in wins. But now here they are in the postseason. The Cavaliers, LeBron James, to me, is the MVP of the season. I don't know if he'll actually win, but he should be the MVP. The Cavs have had a tumultuous year. Tyronn Lue's had some health problems. LeBron's just single-handedly carried that team to wins. Like, they almost lost to the Knicks, or could have lost to the Knicks on Monday night, but LeBron led the way for them. Kevin Love's back healthy for them. Omari Osman has been a nice rookie for them. I think they should give more playing time to Ante Zizic because he's a fine player and he could be a poor man's Nikola Jokic. And J.R. Smith has been in some big games, although he's had a tough year. Rodney Hood was in playoff games last year for the Jazz. He's capable of hitting big shots. Jordan Clarkson's a fine player. Larry Nance Jr. can rebound and can dunk. And I really like this Cavs team. Indiana, Victor Oladipo is the runaway favorite for most improved player. Miles Turner's a good building block piece as well. To me, the underrated guy on the Pacers is the other guy they got in return for Paul George, and that is Domantas Sabonis. He's been pretty good for them this year. He's led the team in rebounding. Darren Collison has been a nice player for them this year. Lance Stevenson's their energy guy. The Pacers went 3-1 against LeBron and the Cavs this season, but that doesn't matter. It's playoffs. LeBron's by far the best player in the series. So give me the Cavs in a short series, although I think the Pacers do win a game in this series at home. So give me the Cavaliers in 5 games, and I won't be that surprised if the series goes 6, to be honest, though, as much as I've praised the Cavs. Western Conference, 1-seeded Houston Rockets against 8-seeded Minnesota Timberwolves. The Rockets are a great team, the best team in the league this year, led by MVP favorite James Harden. Trade acquisition, Chris Paul, who's been tremendous. Clint Capella's made a nice leap this season. A big secret loss for them. Luka Batumute fractured his shoulder in that Lakers game on Tuesday night, so he's perhaps out for the rest of the year, or could very well just be for this round. He's been a big part of what they've done. They're improved defensively. PJ Tucker's a good role player for them. Eric Gordon's been great for them. Ryan Anderson can shoot the 3-ball. Nene's a good backup center. And I mentioned the X factor to me in this series for them, and that is Capella to me because he's made a leap this season. His leap kind of reminded me of Steven Adams' leap 2 years ago for Oklahoma City. And although those two players are completely different in what they do, but I compared him to Adams because they're both big guys, and I think Capella could be a double-double guy, and he could protect the rim as well. Minnesota has had a great season. They're probably a higher seed if Jimmy Butler didn't get hurt. Butler was an MVP candidate before he got hurt. After Butler got hurt, Karl Anthony Towns took his game to another level. He's been great this season. Andrew Wiggins hasn't been that great, although he hit a couple big shots for them in their playoff clinching game on last night against the Nuggets. I like Wiggins, and I think there's still room to grow for him as a player. He's still really young, but he hasn't lived up to number one pick hype. And you have Derrick Rose as their backup point guard. Their starting point guard's Jeff Teague. Teague's been really good for them. Taj Gibson's been a great glue guy for them. Nemanja Bjelica's been great for them shooting threes. Jamal Crawford's always a wild card. He's either red hot or ice cold, as we saw with the Clippers these last couple seasons. I like this Timberwolves team a lot. I just wish they were a higher seed, or else I would have picked them. But the Rockets are just so much better, led by Harden and Paul. Mike D'Antoni, there's a lot of pressure under D'Antoni because I think this is the window for Houston to win the title with a banged-up Golden State and vulnerable Cleveland and banged-up Boston this season. So give me the Rockets in 5 games over the Minnesota Timberwolves. 2-seeded Golden State Warriors against 7-seeded San Antonio Spurs. The Golden State Warriors limp to the finish line. They're the 2 seed. They've had a ton of injuries this season. Steph Curry is going to be out for the first round. But Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green all appear to be healthy, even though they just lost by 40 to Utah. Those guys appear healthy. Jordan Bell's been a nice player for them. He should be their starting center, personally. Andre Iguodala is still capable of hitting big shots for them. Quentin Cook's been a nice backup point guard for them. Been pretty good starting in place of Steph and Curry. Sean Livingston's still a good guy off the bench for them. San Antonio is missing Kawhi Leonard. That's been their biggest story all season. It's a never going away distraction. I don't think he'll make an appearance in this series. If he does, I would have strongly considered the pick San Antonio to win the series if we had a healthy Kawhi Leonard. LaMarcus Aldridge has been tremendous this season. To me, he should be on people's MVP ballots, certainly in the top 10. DeJounte Murray's been a fine player for them, as he's now the starting point guard. Tony Parker's coming off the bench for them. Manu Ginobili's still around. He's a bench player for them, too. Pau Gasol's still putting up double-doubles on occasion for them. Rudy Gay's a good scorer for them. But without Leonard, I don't see San Antonio making this a series, even though Golden State doesn't have Curry. If Curry was hurt and Kawhi was healthy, then I'm picking San Antonio in 6. Kawhi is not healthy, but neither is Curry. This is hard, and this is what my gut's telling me. Warriors in 5. I just think the Warriors win the 2 games in Oracle Arena. San Antonio steals 1 in San Antonio. Then Golden State wins a game in San Antonio. And then Golden State closes it out in 5. I think Durant's the best player in this series easily. So Warriors in 5 over the Spurs. Although that's the pick I don't feel that great about as well. The other pick I don't feel great about either is the Milwaukee upset pick over the Celtics. Because Brad Stevens is one heck of a coach. And I'm not a fan of Milwaukee's intern coach, Joe Petrie. 3-seeded Portland Trailblazers against 6-seeded New Orleans Pelicans. The Blazers have been on a great run in the second half of the season. They had a double-digit winning streak. They haven't really played all that great coming into the playoffs. I think they knew that they were going to be the 3 seed, so they kind of just were playing possum the last couple days of the season. And plus, their opponents were playing bigger games than them. Like, they ran into Denver. They ran into Minnesota. They ran into Utah. They ran into San Antonio, New Orleans. So the Blazers are the 3 seed led by who I think is a top 5 MVP candidate in Damian Lillard. CJ McCollum's still a great player. Yusuf Nurkic has been a weird fit with the Blazers, but he's capable of putting up big numbers for them. Their role players are very solid as well. Al-Farouq Aminu is a guy that's capable of hitting big threes for them. I also like Zach Collins, who is starting to get more playing time for the Blazers, and I think that's a good thing. I like Collins, and he'd be a good backup center coming off the bench for them in this series. Terry Stotts is an outstanding coach, has made the playoffs all 5 seasons with the Blazers, and I think he's one of the more underrated coaches in the league. Shabazz Napier is a good backup point guard for them. Evan Turner didn't have a good season, but he's capable of having big games. Ed Davis is a solid big for them off the bench. New Orleans, Anthony Davis, top 3 MVP candidate, especially after they lost DeMarcus Cousins for the season. Rajon Rondo's been a fine player for the Pelicans this year. Drew Holiday's a solid point guard. Etuan Moore's capable of hitting big threes for them. He's had some big games for them these last few seasons, or these last few games. Due to the Cousins injury, I think it'll finally come back to bite the Pelicans. I just think the Blazers are better. Davis will single-handedly win a couple games for the Pelicans. So give me the Portland Trail Blazers in 7 games, because I think that New Orleans crowd is going to be rocking. There's going to be games where Davis puts up your 45-15 game. There's going to be a game that Rondo goes off. And then there's going to be that game where Etuan Moore hits a bunch of threes. So give me the Blazers in 7. That has making me a classic. In another great series out west, 4-seeded Oklahoma City Thunder against 5-seeded Utah Jazz. A lot of people thought that Utah was going to have home court, but nope. Oklahoma City does. OKC's had a very strange season. Paul George has had some good games, some bad games. Carmelo Anthony's been a weird fit for them. Russell Westbrook's just been outstanding the second half of the season. He averaged a triple-double again for the season. Arguably a top 5 MVP candidate due to his strong second half and him averaging a triple-double again. I love Westbrook. Terrence Ferguson's a solid player for them. He's an X factor for them in this series. And for Utah, Donovan Mitchell, top 2 rookie of the year easily. If Rudy Gobert is healthy the whole year, maybe they're a higher seed. I love Gobert. He's an excellent shot blocker. The breakout player on this team, though, Joe Ingles, who's become a great all-around player for them. Good defender. Can shoot the 3. Dante Exum's shown some promise these last couple games of the season as well. This is a tough call, but with home court advantage, the best player in the series, which is Westbrook, give me the Thunder in 7 over the Utah Jazz. Quinn Snyder should be proud of what his team's done this season. I just think with Gobert healthy, they're a higher seed than this, and they ran into the team that I think could be dangerous in the Western Conference playoffs that nobody is talking about. The New York Knicks fired Jeff Hornacek late last night. I was totally expecting that, and I expected it to happen last night, especially after the way the other tenant in that building, the Rangers, fired their coach right after the game against the Flyers on Saturday. So I thought that the Knicks were going to kind of copycat them and fire Hornacek late at night, and they sure enough did that. This was expected. He wasn't a good coach for the Knicks. Let's face it, Jeff Hornacek might not be a good NBA head coach. He only had one good season, which was his first year at the Suns when he had Goran Dragic and Eric Bledsoe in that backcourt, and had a bunch of good role players on that team, and the Marcus Morris and Markieff Morris, and that was a fun team to watch, that Suns team, but that was Hornacek's only good coaching job, because that Suns team that I just talked about was supposed to be the worst team in the Western Conference that year, but they were in the lottery, but in the playoff hunt until the last week of the season that year. Possible replacements for the Knick job: Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy, Doc Rivers if him and the Clippers part ways, David Fizdale, who I think did a great job with the Grizzlies, and Marc Gasol got him fired because Gasol and him got into a fight, and after Fizdale was fired, the Grizzlies just fell apart. I really like Fizdale. He was a great assistant under Eric Spoelstra with the Heat before he took the Grizzlies job. There's also Jay Wright's name that's come up. That would be an interesting, because I don't think he'd leave Villanova. Although he won 2 national titles over a 3-year span. Jerry Stackhouse's name has come up, but I wouldn't like that hire at all. because although he's a coach in the G League and succeeding, but I'm not a fan of him at all. So it should be very interesting to see what New York does. The other name that I forgot to mention, David Blatt, who was the coach of the Cavs for a little over a year, and then LeBron got him fired in 2016. And I'm not a big Blatt fan either, but that would be an interesting fit. I think the favorite for the Knicks job is Mark Jackson, but I'm not 100% sure that he's going to get the job. The Orlando Magic fired Frank Vogel early this morning. That was expected to happen too. I like Vogel. I think he's a good coach. I just think he was dealt a bad situation in Orlando. He was an excellent coach with the Pacers. I thought the Pacers were going to regret firing Frank Vogel. But Nate McMillan's done a good job in 2 years there at the Pacers. And Vogel did not have the talent in Orlando that he had in Indiana. I think Vogel should be a candidate for the Knicks job, personally. I think Vogel's an excellent coach, but he was just dealt a bad situation with Orlando. New front office in Orlando. The Magic candidates, I've heard Doc Rivers' name connected to that job. Maybe they look at David Fizdale. I'm hearing rumors that if Steve Clifford gets let go by the Charlotte Hornets, he could be a fit with Orlando. So, should be very interesting to see what Orlando does. The Stanley Cup playoffs began last night, and it was a fun night of games. There was one blowout, though, and two very fun and entertaining games. The first game of the night last night, the Pittsburgh Penguins absolutely destroyed the Philadelphia Flyers 7-0 as they take a 1-0 series lead. It was all Pittsburgh the whole game. First period, Brian Rust from Chris Letang and Jake Kuznetsov, 1-0 Pens. 8 minutes later, 10 minutes into the game, Carl Hagelin from Patrick Hornquist and Riley Sheehan, 2-0 Pens. 4 minutes later, 3-0 Pens on a goal by Evgeny Malkin, assisted by Carl Hagelin, 3-0 Pens. Second period, Jake Gensel on the power play, 4-0 Pens, and that was assisted by Derek Brassard and Connor Sheary. And then the Sidney Crosby show, he gets his first of the game, 5-0 Pens, assisted by Brian Dumoulin and Jake Gutznell. Third period, Crosby again, assisted by Gutznell and Justin Schultz at 6-0 Pens. And then 7-0 Pens on the hat-trick goal by Sidney Crosby, assisted by Dumoulin. That was their 7-0 final right there. Matt Murray was great, 24 saves. And he's just been a big game goalie. Brian Elliott, no good for the Flyers. He was pulled after they gave up 5 goals. Elliott had 14 saves on 19 shots, and then Mrazek came in relief, gave up 2 goals, and had 12 saves. I'm interested to see what direction Philadelphia goes for Game 2. If I'm them, I would go with Elliott again. I just think Elliott's a better goalie than Mrazek. So Pens go up 1-0 there. Great game in Winnipeg as they got their first playoff win in franchise history. 3-2 winners over the Minnesota Wild. Take a 1-0 lead in the series. No scoring in the first period, but in the second period on a power play by Mark Sheffley, assisted by Blake Wheeler and Dustin Byfuglien to give Winnipeg a 1-0 lead. That was late in the second period. Third period, here come the Wild. Matt Cullen ties it up at 1 apiece, assisted by Jordan Greenway and Nate Prosser. Wild take the lead 2 minutes later on a goal by Zach Parise to go up 2-1. That was assisted by Mikael Granlund and Mikko Koivu. Here come the Jets. Patrick Laine's first career playoff goal ties it up at 2 apiece, assisted by Paul Stastny, who's been a good trade acquisition for them. And the game-winning goal, Joe Morrow, 3-2 Jets, assisted by Nikolaj Ehlers. Connor Hellebuck was pretty good in this game for Winnipeg in his first ever playoff start. There was some concern how he was going to go because this was obviously his first playoffs. 20 saves on 18 saves, 20 shots on goal. Dubnyk was really, really good. Kept Minnesota in the game for as long as he could. 37 saves on 40 shots. And I think Dubnyk is capable of stealing a game in this series. I think he's so good. And the Vegas Golden Knights get their first playoff win in franchise history and lead the series 1-0, and they won the game 1-0. And the lone goal of this game was by Shea Theodore, assisted by Tomas Nosek. They gave Vegas a 1-0 lead for good. Marc-Andre Fleury was outstanding for the Golden Knights, 30 saves on the game. Jonathan Quick was really good, kept the Kings in that game. He had 27 saves on 28 shots. And I think the Kings have their chances in this game. I still think the Kings have a chance to win the series. I picked the Kings to win that series. Tonight's slate, Devils, Tampa Bay. I picked Tampa Bay in 6, and I think they'll win Game 1 thanks to the return of Steven Stamkos and the lack of experience, or pretty much no experience, by Keith Kincaid. A lot of this Devils roster does not have playoff experience. I like the Lightning to win 4-2 in Game 1. Maple Leafs, Bruins, Tuukka Rask and Frederik Andersen. Anderson's been the better goalie this season, in my opinion. Matthews, I bet, is the best player in the series. I picked Bruins in 7. And the road team hasn't won a playoff game yet, although it was only 3 games yesterday. Give me the Maple Leafs to be the first road team to win a Stanley Cup playoff game this season. And say, let's go 3-2 Maple Leafs in overtime. Blue Jackets, Capitals, this is going to be really interesting. No Braden Holtby, it's Philip Galber making the start for Washington instead of Holtby. Alex Ovechkin, Evgeny Kuznetsov, Nick Backstrom, all these guys have playoff experience. The guys on Columbus have experience as well after making it last year, and they made it in 2015 as well. I like this Blue Jackets team a lot. I picked Washington in 6 to win the series. I like Washington tonight in Game 1. Let's say 3-2 in regulation over the Blue Jackets as Gallbauer continues to play well in net. The Avalanche and the Predators. This Preds team's absolutely loaded. The Avs are probably the worst team in the playoffs. And I like the Nashville Predators big. It's not going to be 7-0 like it was for the Penguins over the Flyers. But let's go 4-0 Preds with the shutout by Pekka Rinne. Let's say Mike Fisher gets a goal. Let's say Ryan Johansson scores. And let's say Forsberg, who's been a good playoff hockey player, gets 2 goals. So let's go with the Predators over the Avs in Game 1 4-0. And then the Sharks at the Ducks. This is, I think, is the most underrated series of the playoffs. I picked the Ducks in 7 games. But give me the Sharks to pull off the Game 1 road win. Let's say 2-1 regulation. Let's say the Ducks come darn close to tying it late, and they don't. So let's say 2-1 Sharks in regulation. Jones stands on his head. So does Gibson, but the veteran Sharks get the Game 1 road win. Although I do have Ducks in 7. Major League Baseball last night, a ton of interesting results, a ton of interesting games, period. Let's start with the Braves and the Nationals. Braves 5-3 winners over the Nats in 12 innings as they improve to 7-5. Washington drops to 6-6. Shane Carl with the win. Ryan Madson with the loss. Top of the first inning, home run Ozzie Albies, 1-0 Braves. Bottom of the third, RBI single Trey Turner ties up at 1 apiece. Top of the fourth, solo shot Kurt Suzuki to give Atlanta a 2-1 lead. And here come the Nats. Bottom of the ninth, game-tying home run Matt Adams ties it up at 2 apiece. Top of the 11th, go-ahead home run Kurt Suzuki, 3-2 Braves. Bottom of the 11th, game-tying RBI double by Howie Kendrick to tie it up at 3 apiece. And the game-winning 2-run single in the top of the 12th by Peter Borges. 5-3 Braves was your final. Brandon McCarthy, 5 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, leaves the game to 3.31 ERA. AJ Cole, 5 in the third innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, leaves the game to 12 ERA. The Twins defeated the Astros 8-9. That's a nice win for Minnesota again, 6-4 on the year. Astros dropped to 9-4. Fernando Rodney with the win. Brad Peacock with the loss. This was an entertaining game. Top of the first, sacrifice fly, Carlos Correa, 1-0 Astros. Bottom of the fourth, game-tying RBI single by Eri Adriana. Bottom of the fourth again, infield single, Brian Dozier, 2-1 Minnesota. Bottom of the fourth, a 3-run triple by Eddie Rosario, 5-1 Twins. 6-1 Twins. RBI single, Logan Morrison. 2-run home run, Max Kepler. 8-1 Twins in the bottom of the fourth. And they broke it open there, but the Astros don't quit. Top of the fifth, RBI single, Jose Altuve to make it 8-2. 2-run single, Evan Gavis to make it 8-4. Infield single, Max Stassi to make it 8-5. Top of the sixth, solo shot, Alex Bregman to get within 8-6. Top of the ninth, 2-run score on an error by Brian Dozier. Well, actually, 1 run scored, and then the tying run scored on the error by Dozier as George Springer grounded into a fielder's choice. And in the bottom of the ninth, the walk-off home run by Max Kepler to give the Twins a 9-8 win over the Houston Astros. They go for the sweep today. The Brewers defeat the Cardinals 3-2 to improve to 7-6. St. Louis drops to 5-7. Junior Guerrero with the win. Adam Wainwright with the loss. Matt Albers with the save. Top of the second, home run Roberto Perez. Home run Hernan Perez, 1-0 Milwaukee. Top of the third, solo shot Eric Thames, 2-0 Milwaukee. Top of the fifth, RBI ground out Jonathan VR, 3-0. Bottom of the sixth, RBI ground out Matt Carpenter to make it a 3-1 game. Bottom of the ninth, home run Tommy Pham to make it a 3-2 game, to make it a little bit interesting as Milwaukee holds on for the win. The White Sox defeated the Rays 2-1 to snap their losing streak to improve to 4-7. Tampa drops to 3-9. Bruce Rondon with the win. Austin Pruitt with the loss. Nate Jones with the save. Top of the fifth, RBI double. C.J. Cron to make it 1-0 Tampa Bay. Go-ahead home run in the bottom of the eighth by Matt Davidson to give Chicago a 2-1 win. Yanni Chirinos, 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts, leaves the game to 0 ERA. He's pitched really well for Tampa to start the season. James Shields had a nice game against his former team. 6 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 5 walks, 6 strikeouts, leaves the game to 4.15 ERA. The Mariners beat the Royals 4-2 to improve to 6-4. KC drops to 3-7. The win, Nick Vincent. The loss, Justin Grimm to save Edwin Diaz. Top of the first, sacrifice fly, Kyle Seager, 1-0 Mariners. Top of the first. Wild pitch by Danny Duffy scores in Robinson Cano to make it 2-0. KC ties it in the bottom of the fourth on a 2-run double by Paulo Orlando. Top of the eighth, go-ahead home run, Kyle Seager, 4-2 Mariners. That's your final. James Paxton, 6 innings, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, and walking 10 strikeouts, leaves the game to 5.74 ERA. He pitched really well. Danny Duffy, 5 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, leaves the game to 5.4 ERA. The Rockies defeat the Padres 6-4. The big story out of this game, the starting pitcher, Luis Perdomo. Luis Perdomo drills Nolan Arenado, and Arenado charged the mound, and the bench is cleared. The win, Antonio Senzatella. The loss, Bunny Bauman. The save, Wade Davis. Bottom of the third, the Rockies put up a 5 spot. RBI single, Carlos Gonzalez, 1-0. 4-0 on a 3-run single by Tony Wolters, and an RBI single by Pat Valinka to make it 5-0. Top of the sixth, solo home run by Frankie Cordero to get the Padres on the board. Also in the top of the sixth, fielder's choice Hunter Renfroe to get the Padres within 3. The Padres get within 2 on a pass ball by Tony Wolters that scored in Jose Perella. Rockies get a run in the bottom of the 6th on a sacrifice fly by Ian Desmond to make it 6-3. And a solo home run by Eric Hosmer in the top of the 8th inning got the Padres within 4. The Rockies improved to 6-7. San Diego drops to 4-9. The Diamondbacks defeated the Giants 7-3 to improve to 9-3. San Francisco drops to 5-6. Fernando Salas with the win. Andrew Suarez with the loss. Top of the 4th inning, 2-run home run Paul Goldschmidt, 2-0 Diamondbacks. Top of the 5th, home run John Ryan Murphy, 3-0 Diamondbacks. Bottom of the 5th, fielder's choice Andrew McCutchen to get the Giants on the board. Bottom of the 5th, 2-run home run Buster Posey tied up at 3 apiece. Top of the 6th, RBI double Paul Goldschmidt to give the Diamondbacks the lead. RBI double John Ryan Murphy, 5-3 Diamondbacks. Top of the 7th as well. Danny Descalso, RBI double, 6-3 Diamondbacks. Also in the top of the 7th, RBI single, Ketel Marte, 7-3 Diamondbacks. Robbie Ray pitched better today than he did in those first 2 starts. 4 2/3 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 5.74 ERA. Andrew Suarez, 5 in the 3rd innings, 4 hits, 4 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 6.75 ERA. The Indians defeated the Tigers 5-1 to improve to 7-5. Detroit drops to 4-7. Carlos Carrasco with the win. Danny Norris with the loss. Bottom of the 4th, the Indians put up a 4-spot 2-run single. Yonder Alonso 2-0 Cleveland. Also in the bottom of the 4th, 3-0 Cleveland on an RBI single by Tyler Naquin. Bottom of the 4th, RBI single Francisco Lindor, 4-0 Cleveland. Top of the 6th, solo home run Leonys Martin to get the Tigers on the board. Bottom of the 7th, RBI single Michael Brantley, 5-1. Indians, that's your final. Carlos Carrasco, complete game, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 3.48 ERA. Jordan Zimmerman only went 2/3 of an inning, but I think that was because of injury. That was because he took a scary hit to the face. He bruised his jaw when Jason Kipnis hit a line drive off and it hit on his jaw, so he left the game. And then Danny Norris came in, 3 innings, 7 hits, 4 earned runs, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. He leaves the game with a 7.11 ERA. Let's hope Zimmerman is okay. Craziest game of the night took place in Fenway Park as the Yankees defeated the Red Sox 10-7 to snap the Red Sox 9-game win streak. Yankees improved to 6-6. Boston drops to 9-2. Masahiro Tanaka with the win. David Price with the loss. The big story of this game was a brawl. And this brawl obviously got more attention than the Rockies-Padres brawl solely because it's Yankees-Red Sox. Tyler Austin rushed the mound after Joe Kelly hit him. Well, he hit Austin because Austin slid hard into second base and hit Brock Holt. And the Red Sox thought it was a double play. They didn't call it a double play. So there's pretty much 2 benches clearing incidents. One after Austin slid into Holt, and then again after Austin was plunked. There was a ton of ejections. Obviously, Austin, Phil Nevin, the Yankee bench coach, was ejected. And obviously, Joe Kelly was ejected. And the Yankees hold on to win the game. Top of the 1st, 2-run triple, Giancarlo Stanton into the triangle in center field at Fenway Park to give the Yankees a 2-0 lead. Also in the top of the 1st, 2-run home run, Gary Sanchez, 4-0 Yanks. Bottom of the 1st, home run, Hanley Ramirez to get the Red Sox on the board. Top of the 3rd, RBI single, Tyler Austin, 5-1 Yanks. Top of the 4th, sacrifice fly, Didi Gregorius, 6-1 Yanks. Top of the 4th, another 2-run shot by Gary Sanchez to give the Yankees an 8-1 lead. Bottom of the 5th, RBI double by Mookie Betts to get the Red Sox within 6. Then the Red Sox get back into this one with the grand slam by J.D. Martinez off of Masahiro Tanaka. They get the Red Sox within 2 runs. Yankees respond in the top of the 6th on an RBI single by Giancarlo Stanton. And then another sac fly by Didi Gregorius to make it 10-6. And in the bottom of the 9th, the Red Sox made it semi-interesting with the tying run on the plate. Aroldis Chapman with the wild pitch scored in from Jackie Bradley Jr. Give the Red Sox their last run. Masahiro Tanaka, 5 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 5.19 ERA. He was so good in this game, and then he fell apart. David Price only had 1 inning, 3 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout, leaves the game with a 2.4 ERA. That's pretty much because of injury. They said they had a finger problem, but I believe them. Although there was speculation that the injury was fake, I doubt that. The Orioles defeated the Blue Jays 5-3 to salvage the final game of that series to improve to 5-8. Toronto drops to 8-5. Kevin Gausman with the win. Marco Estrada with the loss. Brad Brock with the save. Top of the 1st, RBI single, Kevin Pillar, 1-0 Toronto. Bottom of the 4th, RBI double, Jonathan Scope to make it 1-1. Also in the bottom of the 4th, RBI single, Chris Davis to give the Orioles a 2-1 lead. 3-1 Orioles on a sacrifice fly by Tim Beckham. Top of the 5th, RBI single, again, Hervis Solarte to get the Blue Jays within 1. Bottom of the 5th, RBI single, Jonathan Scope to give the Orioles a 2-4 lead, 4-2 lead. Top of the 5th, Edlemis Diaz homer to get the Blue Jays within 1. And the bottom of the 6th, 5-3 Orioles on a RBI single by Chance Sisco. Kevin Gausman, 6 innings, 6 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 6.6 ERA. Marco Estrada, 4 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 4.24 ERA. The Phillies defeated the Reds 4-3 in 12 innings as they improved to 6-5. Cincinnati drops to 2-9. Yaxel Rios with the win. Austin Bryce with the loss. Bottom of the 2nd, 2-run home run J.P. Crawford to give the Philadelphia Phillies a 2-0 lead. Top of the 4th, an RBI single by Joey Votto to get the Reds on the board. The Reds tied up at 2 apiece on an RBI groundout by Phillip Ervin. Bottom of the 5th, Cesar Hernandez home run to give the Phillies a 3-2 lead. Top of the 9th, game-tying RBI single by Phillip Ervin to tie it up at 3 apiece. Bottom of the 12th, game-winning sacrifice fly by Scott Kingery to give the Philadelphia Phillies a 4-3 win. Nick Pivetta, 7 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 7 strikeouts, leaves a given 2.7 ERA. Pivetta has been a early breakout signee of the Philadelphia Phillies. It's early, but we'll see. Luis Castillo, 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 7.31 ERA. The Mets defeated the Marlins 4-1 to improve to Major League best 10-1. That's their 8th in a row. The Marlins dropped to 3-9. I said this all along. Clearly, the worst team in the league is the Miami Marlins. Zach Wheeler to win. Chris O'Grady with the loss. Bottom of the 1st, though, Miami got on the board with a home run by Miguel Rojas to give themselves a 1-0 lead. And here come the Mets in the top of the 8th after being no hit through 6. 2-run pinch hit single by Adrian Gonzalez to give the Mets a 2-1 lead. Ground rule double Wilmer Flores, 3-1 Mets. And a sacrifice fly by Clint Frazier, 4-1 Mets. That's your final. Zach Wheeler pitched really well. 7 innings, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. Leaves the game with a 1.29 ERA. Harleen Garcia was pulled. He had a no-no. The Mets were actually being no-hit through 6, as I mentioned before. Garcia, 6 innings, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Leaves the game with a 1.13 ERA. I think it's crazy that Mattingly pulled him. You're not going anywhere anyway. The Angels defeated the Rangers 7-2 as they improved to 10-3. The Rangers dropped to 4-10. Jamie Barria with the win. Matt Moore with the loss. Kenyon Middleton with the save. Top of the 2nd, the Angels scored 2 runs. First on a RBI single by Shohei Ohtani. 1-0. Angels. Top of the 2nd, RBI single by Rene Rivera to give the Angels a 2-0 lead. Bottom of the 3rd, Ryan Rua home run to get the Rangers on the board. Top of the 4th, Jeffrey Marte, RBI triple, 3-1 Angels. Top of the 6th, another triple, this time by Zach Cozart to give the Angels a 4-1 lead. Sacrifice fly, Mike Trout, 5-1 Angels. Top of the 9th, 2-run single by Cole Calhoun, 7-1 Angels. Bottom of the 9th, RBI single by Jurickson Profar to make it 7-2. Barria, 5 innings, 1 hit, 1 earned run, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 1.8 ERA. He pitched pretty well. Matt Moore, 5 innings, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, leaves the game with 8.76 ERA. The Cubs destroyed the Pirates 13-5 to improve to 6-5. Pittsburgh drops to 8-3. Brian Dunsing with the win, Tyler Glasnow with the loss. Top of the 2nd, Pittsburgh got it going first on a 3-run home run by Sean Rodriguez to put Pittsburgh up 3-0. Bottom of the 2nd, a wild pitch by Stephen Brault that scored in Ben Zobrist, got the Cubs on the board. Bottom of the 2nd, 3-run home run, Javier Baez, 4-3 Cubs. Top of the 5th, Francisco Cervelli ties the game with an RBI single at 4 apiece. Bottom of the 6th, Fielder's choice, Tommy La Stella, 5-4 Cubs. 6-4 Cubs on an RBI double by Chris Bryant. 8-4 Cubs on a 2-run single by Ben Zobrist. 9-4 Cubs on an RBI single by Jason Hayward. That was in the bottom of the 7th, as well as a 2-run home run by Ian Happ to make it 11-4 Cubs. Also in the bottom of the 7th, RBI double, Chris Bryant for 12-4 Cubs. Top of the 8th, home run David Freese to make it a 12-5 game. And the bottom of the 8th, another home run by Javier Baez to make it 13-5. Baez has been on fire. There's rumors that he's going to be, or his wife, Javier Baez's fiance, is supposed to be expecting a child any day now. So it's pretty cool that Baez is playing well. John Lester was great. 5 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 4.40 ERA. Well, not really great. He was good. Let's say that. Stephen Brault, 5 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 3.46 ERA. Last but not least, probably the most impressive win of the night, Oakland Athletics 16-6 winners over Los Angeles Dodgers to improve to 5-8. Dodgers dropped to 4-7. Daniel Magnan with the win, Alex Wood with the loss. Top of the first, 2-run home run, Chris Davis to get Oakland on the board, 2-0. Bottom of the first, RBI groundout, Corey Seager to get the Dodgers on the board, 2-1. Top of the fourth, RBI single, Matt Chapman, 3-1. Also in the top of the fourth, RBI single, Daniel Magnan. Top of the fourth as well, 6-1 Dodgers on a 2-run double by Marcus Semien. Also on the top of the fourth, 7-1 Dodgers on an RBI single by Matt Olson. Bottom of the fourth, Yasmani Grandal homers, 7-2. Top of the sixth, RBI single, Jed Lowry, 8-2. Also in the top of the sixth, a wild pitch scores in Max Olden by... The wild pitch was by Scott Alexander. That makes it 9-2 Oakland. Bottom of the sixth, Yasmani Grandal RBI single, 9-3. 9-4 on a RBI groundout by Logan Forsythe. Top of the seventh, here come Oakland. Marcus Semien RBI single, 10-4. 12-4 Athletics in the top of the eighth on a home run by Matt Chapman. Bottom of the eighth, sacrifice fly Chase Utley to make it 12-5. Top of the ninth, fielder's choice Marcus Semien, 13-5. Oakland. And a 3-run home run to close this out for Oakland in the top of the ninth by Jed Lowry, 16-5. And then Kike Hernandez in the bottom of the ninth homered to make it 16-6. Daniel Magnan, 5 innings, 7 hits, 3 runs, 5 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 6.19 ERA. Alex Wood was terrible, 3 2 third innings, 7 hits, 7 earned runs, no walks, 5 strikeouts, leaves the game with a 5.09 ERA. The Cubs and the Pirates are underway from Wrigley Field as the Pirates have a 1-0 lead. After third, it's Tyler Chatwood against Trevor Williams. Tigers-Indians tonight with Michael Fulmer and Trevor Bauer. That's a solid pitching matchup. Cardinals-Reds from Cincinnati. Michael Wacha against Sal Romano. Rockies-Nationals. Chad Bettis against Gio Gonzalez. Yankees-Red Sox. Sonny Gray against Rick Porcello. White Sox-Twins. Lucas Giolito and Jose Barrios. A nice young pitching matchup there. Angels-Royals. Nick Trapano and Ian Kennedy. And last but not least, Giants-Padres. Chris Stratton and Brian Mitchell. Lastly, I'm going to do the trade value rankings for Major League Baseball. I'm going to go 100-1. This is a tough list to make. There's a lot of prospects on here, and I'm projecting futures and age and upside, and obviously some past results factor into this, or most of it is, as I mentioned, upside, age, and potential. 100, George Springer, Houston Astros. Springer, the World Series MVP. He's among the top 50 players in Major League Baseball right now, but he is, I believe, 28 years old, and maybe his game declines over the next 2 to 5 years. 99, Giancarlo Stanton, New York Yankees. Stanton got off to a slow start this year and has picked it up pretty well. I still think he's going to be a great home run hitter for years to come. 98, Jose Altuve, Houston Astros. He's a hits machine. He's getting up there in age, though. 97, Franklin Barreto, Oakland Athletics. He has not really turned in good results as he's shown in the big leagues. He's starting the year in AAA. When he gets called up, maybe he finally breaks out this season. 96, Raul Mondesi Jr. He's a young prospect that really hasn't panned out. He got suspended for PEDs, I believe it was 2 years ago. He helped the Royals in the World Series. I think he's a key piece for them in the future. 95, Gregory Polanco, Pittsburgh Pirates. Polanco has shown nice things since he's been called up. I think he has a chance to improve now that Andrew McCutchen is no longer on the team. 94, Adrian Morjon, pitching prospect from the San Diego Padres. His upside is a really good number 3 starter in my opinion. He should be called up at least by next year, and I really like his upside. 93, Jose De Leon, Tampa Bay Rays. He was formerly of the Dodgers. They traded him in the Logan Forsythe deal. He's having Tommy John surgery, so he's missing this season. I think he has a ton of upside, and he has the upside of a number 2 starter. Number 92, Christian Yelich, Milwaukee Brewers. He was traded from the Marlins to the Brewers over the winter. He, I think, will prove to be a great addition for the Brewers. I think he has room to grow as a player. He's a good defensive player. He has a whole lot of home run potential after playing in Miami. I think he's in a smaller ballpark. With the smaller ballpark, I think that'll benefit Yelich. 91, Marcell Ozuna, St. Louis Cardinals. For the same reason as Yelich, I think getting out of Miami will benefit Ozuna. I think he has a really high upside. He has good speed. He plays really good defense. He can play all over the outfield, and I really like his game. He has room to grow as a player as well. 90, Marcus Stroman, Toronto Blue Jays, the ace of that staff. He's 28 years old, but I think he has room to grow as a pitcher. And is he a part of the Blue Jays' long-term plans? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see by the end of the season. Right now, he looks to be a part of their future plans. 89, Jorge Alfaro, Philadelphia Phillies. Alfaro came over in the deal for Cole Hamels in 2015. I like Alfaro. He's been solid so far for the Phillies this season, and I think he's going to project out to be one of the better young catchers in this game. Number 88, Ryan Healy, Seattle Mariners. I really like Healy. I think he's a really good player. Oakland traded him because they have a lot of infielders, so they traded from one of their strengths to improve their farm system. And I think Healy's fit on this Mariners team is going to be really interesting. Between him and Dan Vogelbach, who do they pick long term? I think the answer is Healy, because I think he's a better defensive player than Vogelbach. 87, Jonathan Scope, Baltimore Orioles. This is a bit of a generous ranking because Scope is coming off a breakout year last year. I really like Scope. I think he's a future piece for the Orioles, or do they trade him as they endure what could very well be a long rebuild? 86, Austin Hayes, Baltimore Orioles. Hayes is a highly ranked prospect, but I'm not super high on him like others. He projects to be somebody like current Oriole Adam Jones. He's a key piece for them going forward, as he's actually starting this year in Double-A, which I don't think bodes well for Baltimore. Number 85, Freddie Freeman of the Atlanta Braves. Freeman might be getting up there in age, but I really like Freeman. He's a solid player, and he's a great hitter, good defensive player. I think one of the more underrated players in this league. He's been great these last couple years, and I think he is going to be a long-term piece for the Braves as well, as although he is getting up there in age. 84, Rougned Odor, Texas Rangers. I like Odor. I think he's a fine player. He's a very streaky player. He did not have that good of a year last year, having a breakout year in 2016. I think he's a long-term piece for the Texas Rangers. 83, Xander Bogaerts, Boston Red Sox. Bogaerts off to a fantastic start the season, now on the disabled list. He was hurt most of last year. A lot of people compared him to Derek Jeter when he was first called up. I think that's a little crazy, but he's still going to be a good shortstop in this league for a very long time. 82, Tyler Glasnow, Pittsburgh Pirates. I still like Glasnow. He hasn't really panned out as the Pirates hoped. He's starting this year as a reliever. He's still young. I think he has room to grow as a pitcher. 81, Sean Manaea, Oakland Athletics. Manaea is off to a fine start with Oakland this season, and he's going to be a long-term rotation piece for them. 80, John Gray, Colorado Rockies. I really like Gray. It hurts him that he's pitching most of his games in Coors Field, but he's proven to be the ace of the Rocky staff. 79, Madison Bumgarner, San Francisco Giants. Probably should be higher on this list, but because of his age, he's at 79. I think there's a chance if the Giants' season falls apart and he comes back and is good and the Giants fall apart, that he's trade bait at the trade deadline, as the Giants should realize that it's time for them to go into a rebuild. I still think Bumgarner is an ace pitcher, and it would be great if somebody traded for him at the trading deadline, assuming the Giants are in a contender and he's healthy. 78, Chris Sale, Boston Red Sox. Like I said, trade value rankings. He's getting up there in age. He's still the ace of the Red Sox staff. He's going to be the ace for the Red Sox for a few more years. He's a free agent. Do the Red Sox re-sign him? We'll see. 77, Robbie Ray, Arizona Diamondbacks. I love Ray. I think he is going to be a long-term piece for the Diamondbacks. He's still pretty young. He had a breakout year last year. He hasn't got off to a good start this year, but I really like Ray as a pitcher, and like I said, he's going to be the ace of that Diamondback staff for the next few years. 76, Jameson Taillon, Pittsburgh Pirates. Taillon's off to an excellent start this season for the Pirates. He looks to be their future ace. Either him or a guy I'm going to get to later on this podcast, and that's Mitch Keller. I'm not going to give away where he's ranked. But I really like Taillon. Worst case scenario, he's the number 2 starter long-term on that team. 75, Luis Gohara of the Atlanta Braves. I like Gohara. He's projected to be at least a number 2 or number 3 type of starter. I think the Braves' long-term pitching is in great hands. 74, Luis Roberts, Chicago White Sox. Roberts is an underrated prospect in the White Sox system. He could very well end up being a reliever for them, or at worst a number 3 starter. I really like his stuff. 73, Lucas Giolito, Chicago White Sox. This is a very generous ranking because I believe there's still upside with Giolito after he is has a little bit of a bust reputation after a couple subpar starts in Washington, as Washington traded him away for Adam Eaton, and Giolito hasn't really lived up to hype yet with the White Sox either. Maybe he does this year. I'm banking on him to do so, and that's why he's 73 on these rankings, and that's why he's on the rankings. 72, Tyler Beede, San Francisco Giants. Beede made his major league debut very recently. I think he pitched pretty well. I think he could very well be the future ace of the Giants staff if Madison Bumgarner is traded. I like Beede a lot. He has a lot of upside. Worst case scenario, he's a number 2. 71, Michael Baez, San Diego Padres. Baez is another young stud in the Padres system. I think he is a long-term piece for them in their rotation, and he could very well be called up this season. 70, Nick Williams, Philadelphia Phillies. Williams is a bit of a streaky player. He has some bad raps off the field, but I think he's going to turn into a fine outfielder for the Phillies. He had a big pinch hit home run for the Phils the other day against the Reds. I think he's there to stay long-term. 69, Willie Calhoun, Texas Rangers. Calhoun didn't make the Rangers out of spring training. He's in AAA, and I think that Calhoun is primed to get called up for the Texas Rangers and could make a push with Shohei Ohtani for American League Rookie of the Year. 68, Ahmed Rosario, New York Mets. Rosario's the shortstop of the future and the shortstop of now for the New York Mets, and Rosario's been a fine player for them this season after struggling a little bit when he got called up last year. I really like Rosario. He's certainly a long-term building block for the New York Mets. 67, another young shortstop in the National League East, and that is J.P. Crawford of the Philadelphia Phillies. Crawford's finally living up to his potential after being disappointing these last couple years in the minor leagues. He had 2 home runs recently for the Phils. He's their long-term answer at shortstop, and him and Scott Kingery are going to provide a great middle infield in Philadelphia for years to come. 66, Manuel Margot, San Diego Padres. Margot, I really like Margot. He was a highly touted prospect when he was on the Red Sox, and the Red Sox traded him away for Craig Kimbrell. Margot hasn't really panned out yet for the Padres. Maybe this is the year he pans out. I project him as a really solid leadoff hitter with his upside being... Downside, Brett Gardner. Upside, maybe, if he lives up to potential. I could see him possibly being like Charlie Blackmon if he develops properly. 65, Austin Matthews, Pittsburgh Pirates. Another young prospect that hasn't panned out yet. I think there's a chance he gets called up and he plays pretty well for the Pirates. We'll see. 64, Yasiel Puig, Los Angeles Dodgers. Puig is very high on this list. I still like Puig as a player. He had a great year last year after being subpar for a couple years for the Dodgers. I think the Dodgers keep him long term. He has a ton of upside. He has a lot of capabilities, home run power. He's very fast on the bases, and he's a good hitter. 63, Hunter Renfroe, San Diego Padres. Renfroe hasn't panned out either, this could very well be the breakout year for him. I really like Renfroe as a prospect, and I think he's going to be a star someday. 62, Miguel Sano, Minnesota Twins. Sano, off the field issues aside, he's a great player. He's a ton of home run power. Not the best defensive player, but his offense is great. He can flat out rake. He's a long-term piece for the Twins going forward. 61, Matt Chapman, Oakland Athletics. Chapman proved to be a nice piece for Oakland last year, and he seems like a keeper as he's continuing to play well this year. And I think he's their third baseman of the future. And speaking of the Athletics, Matt Olson is number 60. He's their first baseman. I like Olson. He has a lot of power. I think he's in Oakland long term. 59, Paul DeJong, St. Louis Cardinals. I love DeJong. Rookie of the Year finalist a year ago. He's the long-term answer for them at second base. 58, Jake Lamb, Arizona Diamondbacks. I love Lamb. I think he has franchise player potential. He had a breakout year a year ago. He's on the disabled list right now, but when he comes back, I think he's going to be great. And he's going to prove to be a long-term piece for them. 57, Scott Kingery, Philadelphia Phillies. I think this guy can flat out rake. He's going to be a star. He's going to challenge for the National League Rookie of the Year. I think Kingery is a very good player. 56, Alex Bregman, Houston Astros. I love Bregman. He's a star already. He has a World Series ring. He's going to be becoming one of the better third basemen in the league over the next couple seasons. 55, Didi Gregorius, New York Yankees. A bit of a generous ranking for a guy that I think is very underrated in the media, but the generosity is coming from the fact that he's in his high 20s. And is this his ceiling, or does he have room to grow as a player? I think he has room to grow as a player. He's a great base runner. He can flat out pick it at shortstop. The Yankees couldn't have found a better replacement for Derek Jeter. 54, Kyle Quantrill, San Diego Padres. I really like Quantrill. He has ace potential. Could very well see the bigs this year. 53, Justice Sheffield, New York Yankees. A bit of a generous ranking because some people project him to be a number 3 or number 2 starter. I think he could be an ace. I like Sheffield. Are the Indians going to regret trading him away? Could very well be the case. And I like Sheffield. I'm very, very high on him as a prospect. And I think the Yankees could use him as trade bait or as a long-term rotation piece. That's to be determined this year. 52, Michael Fulmer, Detroit Tigers. I love Fulmer. Is he a Tiger long-term? I don't think so. I think somebody's going to overwhelm them at the trading deadline, whether it's New York or Washington or even the Dodgers. I like Fulmer a lot. He's an ace. He was the Rookie of the Year in 2016. He had an even better year in 2017. I think he's going to be great again this year. 51, Ozzie Albies, Atlanta Braves. Albies is the second baseman of the future for the Braves. He has a lot of power. He has good speed. He's a good defensive player. And he's in the long-term plans of the Braves. 50, Ryan McMahon, Colorado Rockies. He's the first baseman of the future for the Rocks. I really like him. Coors Field's going to benefit him. Is he a good defensive player? I believe he will be eventually. 49, Carson Kelly, St. Louis Cardinals. It's obvious that Kelly is going to be the replacement long-term for Yadier Molina after the Cardinals refused to give up Kelly in trades. I think he has a ton of upside. He could very well be the next Yadier Molina. I really, really am a fan of him. He is good behind the plate, and he can throw out base runners. I can't wait to see if he gets a call-up appearance at some point this season. 48, Francisco Mejia, Cleveland Indians. Do they keep him at catcher, or do they move him to an infield position? That's the question long-term for Cleveland, but this guy can flat-out rake. 47, Yoan Moncada, Chicago White Sox. Moncada hasn't lived up the hype yet this season. or yet in his career, but I think this could very well be the year he finally plays up to potential after being traded and starting last year in AAA. I really am a fan of Moncada, and he is a good base runner. He has a lot of power potential, and he can rake. We'll see how he does this season on the White Sox. 46, Dansby Swanson, Braves. Swanson had a disappointing year last year. I expect a big bounce-back season for Swanson this year. He's a key piece for the Braves going forward, along with Albies, Freeman, and a guy I'm going to get to in Ronald Acuna in terms of position players. They have a ton of pitching coming up through the system as well. I still think Swanson has a chance to be a star. 45, Luis Urias, San Diego Padres. I love Urias. He's going to be called up at some point this season. He's their second baseman of the future. I am a big fan. He's a good defensive player. He has some power. He has some speed. I'm excited to see him get called up. 44, Lewis Brinson, Miami Marlins. After being traded from the Brewers in the Christian Yelich Shield, Brinson was the key guy they got in return. I think he's going to be solid on a rebuilding Marlins team, and he's a key piece for them going forward. 43, Alex Verdugo, Los Angeles Dodgers. I really like Verdugo. He's a solid player, and he is going to be up at the Dodgers at some point. They're not trading him for anybody. I think he could be this year's Cody Bellinger, except with less home runs. 42, Andrew Benintendi, Boston Red Sox. I love Benintendi. If not for Aaron Judge's monster rookie season, he would have been the Rookie of the Year. And I think Benintendi's a long-term piece for the Red Sox. He's going to be a great hitter. He has some power. He can steal bases, and he's good defensively as well. 41, his teammate Mookie Betts, Boston Red Sox. I love Betts. He's a great all-around player. He did not have a good season last year, but this year he's off to a fantastic start. He can hit leadoff. He can hit cleanup. He can hit all over. He can steal bases. He's a good defensive player. He can play all the outfield positions. He can hit for power, and he can hit for average, and I'm a big fan of Betts. And there's a lot of teams coveted of Betts when the Red Sox are trying to make deals for the likes of Cole Hamels and David Price in years past, but they ended up signing Price in free agency, and Hamels ended up getting traded to the Texas Rangers instead of the Red Sox in 2015. 40, Byron Buxton of the Minnesota Twins. I'm a big fan of Buxton. He had a bust label for a little while, and in the second half of last year, he had his breakout. I think he's for real. I'm a big fan of Buxton, and he's going to be a franchise guy for the Twins going forward. He has great speed, good power, and can hit for average. 39, Gary Sanchez, New York Yankees. A bit of a generous ranking here because he's not great defensively behind the plate, although he's shown improvement of that this season so far. He can flat out rake. He's a home run hitter. He's the best catcher in baseball right now, and I don't think it's close. And I think Sanchez has room to grow defensively, obviously. And like I said, this guy can rake. 38, William Ademis, Tampa Bay Rays. Ademis came over from the Tigers in the David Price deal in 2014. Ademis could see some time in the big leagues this year. He can play shortstop and second base. His versatility makes him pretty solid, and he's a good defensive player. He can run. He has some solid power as well. I want to see if the Rays call him up this year or not. 37, Brendan Rodgers of the Colorado Rockies. I really like Rodgers. He's a solid prospect. He's going to get called up at some point this season. Will he play shortstop or second or even third or first? That's going to be interesting because they have all those spots filled. And the Rockies have some decisions to make going forward long term. Do they trade away a Trevor Story to open up the spot for Rodgers, or a guy that I think has even more value in DJ LeMahieu? So it should be very interesting, and I like Rodgers, and he's a keeper for the Rocks long term. 36, Bo Bichette, Toronto Blue Jays. I really like Bichette. He's a good shortstop, second base prospect. He has some speed. He's going to hit. He's going to hit for power, too. He's a long-term piece for Toronto going forward. 35, Franklin Perez of the Detroit Tigers. I really like Perez. He was the key piece that went back to Detroit in the Justin Verlander deal as the Astros had a surplus In pitching, I like Perez a lot, and he could very well be a future ace. 34, Kyle Wright, Atlanta Braves. I really like Wright. He can get called up this year. I'm a big fan. He's a Vanderbilt guy. Draws comparisons to Sonny Gray. At worst, he's a number 2 starter, in my opinion. 33, Sixto Sanchez, Philadelphia Phillies. I love Sanchez. He's a keeper for the Phils long term. He could very well slide in as their ace and make Aaron Nola their number 2. Or is he, at worst case scenario, number 2 as Nola officially emerges as their number 1? That's going to be an interesting development for Philadelphia long term. 32, Brent Honeywell, Tampa Bay Rays. Honeywell would have been on the Rays this season if he didn't get Tommy John surgery. I still think he has a ton of upside, as he'll most likely see action in 2019. Like I said, I'm a big fan of Honeywell, and his upside to me is a number 1 starter. 31, Jack Flaherty of the St. Louis Cardinals. I love Flaherty. He made his Major League debut recently. He was solid. I think he's going to be in the Cardinals rotation for the rest of the year. He'll challenge for National League Rookie of the Year. Worst case scenario, he's a number 3 starter. 30, Archie Bradley of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Bradley's so good. He's a great reliever out for them. Maybe eventually he turns back into a starter, but I like him in this reliever role better. 29, Kyle Tucker, Houston Astros. I'm fascinated to see what they do with Tucker and what they do with their infield. I think he's their left fielder of the future, or maybe their right fielder of the future. But I'm telling you what, him and George Springer are 2 guaranteed infielders for their 2019 roster. I think Tucker's going to be up at some point this season to help them. I like his upside, and he has a ton of power. And he can be this year's version of Alex Bregman. 28, A.J. Puke, Oakland Athletics. Puke would have been on Oakland's roster this year if he wasn't hurt. He got Tommy John surgery. Puke projects to be a future ace. I like his upside, and he's going to be a good pitcher in this league eventually. 27, Brendan McKay of the Tampa Bay Rays. I'm really high on McKay. He could be in the big leagues in 2019. He can pitch and he can hit. He could be a poor man's Ohtani for the Rays, or maybe he can be as good as Ohtani. We'll see. But I like him better as an offensive player, better than a pitcher. As opposed to Ohtani, I like better as a pitcher than a hitter. But we'll see with McKay, and I think, as I said, will be on the Rays in 2019 and is a big part for them long term. 26, Mike Sakura of the Atlanta Braves. I'm a big fan of Sakura. I think he has ace potential. He'll be up this year for Atlanta as they try to surprise people in the National League. He's a part of their rotation long term and for years to come. 25, Mitch Keller, Pittsburgh Pirates. I talked about Keller before when I was talking about Jameson Taillon. Keller projects to be the Pirates' ace long term. At worst case scenario, he's the number 2 to Taillon. But I'm a big fan of Keller. He could very well be up this season. 24, Walker Buehler, Los Angeles Dodgers. I love Buehler, and I think he's going to be a star in this league. He'll be the future ace of the Dodgers once Clayton Kershaw ages. I'm a big fan of Buehler, and he could very well see time this season. 23, Forrest Whitley, Houston Astros. Whitley suspended to start the year due to PEDs, but I think he'll be on the Astros team come August and September, as he can slide right into their rotation in that number 4 spot behind Cole and Keuchel and Verlander. I'm a big fan of Whitley, and he'll be there long term. 22, Victor Robles, Washington Nationals. I'm a big fan of Robles. There's a reason why they didn't trade him, as they had chances to improve their team for now, but Robles is going to be there long term. They look at him as a replacement for Bryce Harper, and as they assume that Harper's going to leave, I think Robles is going to step right in and do the job. He has a lot of speed. He has some power. He can hit for average, and he's going to be a good base stealer in this league too. 21, Gleyber Torres, New York Yankees. Torres is going to be on the Yankees sooner rather than later. He would have been on the Yankees last year if he didn't get Tommy John surgery. I'm a big fan of Torres, and he is drawing comparisons to guys like Derek Jeter and guys like A-Rod. Like, I've heard a bunch of big-name comparisons. Nomar Garcia-Parra. But is he going to be that good? We'll see. A lot of people think the Cubs already regret trading Torres for Aroldis Chapman when they did. in 2016. But I'm very interested to see how Torres does. He did not have a good spring training. They started him in the AAA, and he's raking in AAA right now. I think he'll be up in the matter of time. 20, Manny Machado, Baltimore Orioles. Machado won't be an Oriole next year. And I think that's almost a sure thing, as he'll either be a Yankee or a Cardinal or a Dodger or a Cub or maybe even a Red Sox. We'll see. And I think Machado is one of the great players in this league. He still has a ton of upside. If he wasn't injured, then he would be talked about more in the conversation with Trout and Harper. 19, Cody Bellinger, Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm a big Bellinger fan. NL Rookie of the Year a year ago. He's room to grow as a player. Has a ton of power. He's going to be a mainstay in that Dodgers lineup for years to come. 18, Eloy Jimenez, Chicago White Sox. Here's another prospect that the Cubs might regret trading away. Jimenez has a lot of raw power. He could very well see the big leagues this season. I predicted in my Major League Baseball predictions podcast that he'd be this year's version of Rhys Hoskins. We'll see. I think Jimenez has a ton of upside, and the White Sox have to be thrilled that they were able to snag him for Jose Quintana. 17, Tristan McKenzie of the Cleveland Indians. I'm a big fan of McKenzie. I think he's going to be a star in this league. There's a reason why the Indians aren't trading him to improve their team. I think they look at him as a long-term possible replacement for Corey Kluber once Corey Kluber ages and fades in his career. I'm a big fan of McKenzie. Worst case scenario, he's a number 2 starter. 16, Jose Berrios of the Minnesota Twins. I'm a big Berrios fan. He probably should have started the wild card of the game last year for the Twins, but instead he gave the ball to Irvin Santana. Berrios is the ace of the future for the Minnesota Twins. He's going to be one of the better pitchers in baseball over the next 2 to 5 years. 15, Noah Syndergaard, New York Mets. When healthy, he's probably the most dominant pitcher in the game. I think has room to grow as a pitcher. He's phenomenal, and no way are the Mets going to trade him at any point if he continues to pitch like this, as the Mets are off to a very good start this season, and they look to be a contender in the National League. 14, Fernando Tatis Jr. Tatis Jr. is going to be called up this season, and he's going to be the shortstop for the Padres going forward. I am a big fan of Tatis. He has a lot of power and speed, and going to hit for average. Going to be a good defensive player, too. And I think the Padres snagged up a good player here in Tatis. 13, Julio Urias of the Los Angeles Dodgers. This is a very generous ranking considering that he's coming off of an injury. I think his upside is tremendous. He could very well be the future ace of this team. I'm a big fan, and I think that Urias and Walker Buehler are going to be co-aces on the Dodgers for the next decade or so. 12, Nick Senzel, Cincinnati Reds. I'm a big Senzel fan. He's going to be called up at some point this year. He'll challenge for National League Rookie of the Year. He'll probably play shortstop for the Reds, or do they put him at third and Suarez at shortstop? I like Suarez better at shortstop and Senzel at third. We'll see what Cincinnati does, but I'm a big Senzel fan. I think he's going to hit for a lot of power in a great American ballpark. He can hit for average, good defensive player, and I don't know if he has that much speed or not, but I really like him as a player. 11, Corey Seager, Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm a big Seager fan. I think he's one of the more underrated players in the league. He was overshadowed last year by his own teammate in Cody Bellinger, but I think Seager's going to be one of the best shortstops in baseball for years to come. 10, Ronald Acuna of the Braves. Acuna's going to get called up at some point this season, and I think he's going to be an absolute star, and he's going to lead the Braves to big things come future. He's going to be the favorite for the National League Rookie of the Year once he gets called up. I think this guy can rake. He has a ton of power. I haven't seen such a sure thing come up in baseball since Chris Bryant with the Cubs. And I think Gleyber Torres could have been that if he didn't have Tommy John surgery last year. 9, Carlos Correa, Houston Astros. I love Correa. He's going to get better. I think he's overshadowed on that team by Jose Altuve and in the good pitching they have with Keuchel and Verlander. But I think he's their best player. He's their franchise shortstop for years to come. I think he has a lot of room to grow, as I mentioned. I think his power game's going to get better. He's a good defensive shortstop. He reminds me of a young A-Rod. 8, Shohei Ohtani, Los Angeles Angels. This guy's a stud already. Everyone called him a bust in spring training. I regret not picking him the American League Rookie of the Year. I bought into the notion that he was probably going to be a bust in spring training. I regret doing that. I love Ohtani. I think that guy is a better pitcher than he is a hitter. And the fact that he has 3 home runs already is amazing. He had a perfect game through 6 1/3 the other day. He was a very deserving winner of Player of the Week last week. 7, Michael Kopech, Chicago White Sox. Kopech's going to be the ace of the future for the White Sox. I think he's phenomenal. I think the Red Sox are going to regret trading away Kopech, as Kopech's going to be an absolute star for years to come on the White Sox. 6, Alex Reyes, St. Louis Cardinals. I'm a big fan of Reyes. He's coming off a Tommy John surgery, but I think this guy's a stud. He's shown some promise in his brief Major League stint before his Tommy John surgery. I think he's going to give the Cardinals a much-needed boost. 5, Luis Severino, New York Yankees. This guy's a total stud. I think this guy's going to be the best pitcher in baseball a couple years from now. I think he's room to grow as a pitcher. He's still very young. He had a rough outing against the Red Sox the other day. That was only 1 game. But this guy's a star. He's a Cy Young candidate this year. He finished 3rd in the Cy Young last year. He's going to be a multiple-time Cy Young winner in the future. And I think the Yankees got themselves a stud in Severino. 4, Vlad Guerrero Jr. of Toronto Blue Jays. This guy, to me, has so much potential. He reminds me of Manny Machado. And I think this guy is an absolute star already, even though he's not on the Blue Jays yet. He's obviously going to replace Josh Donaldson there. The fans love him already. He hit a walk-off home run in spring training. I think this guy is going to be one of the better players in this league for years to come. 3, Aaron Judge, New York Yankees. Judge is a stud. He hits for average. He hits for power. He gets a lot of runs batted in. He walks a lot, but his one flaw is that he strikes out a lot. I think this is the year he cuts down the strikeouts. He was hitting for average last year, but the strikeouts came back to bite him as he had that bad slump that cost him American League MVP last year. I think he's the MVP favorite in the American League. I picked him to win the American League MVP this year. I stand by that pick. I don't regret it one bit. I think Judge can flat out rake. He's going to hit a ton of home runs. He's going to hit for average. He's going to have a ton of runs batted in with that loaded lineup, and I think he's going to be a stud for years to come in the Bronx. Number 2, Mike Trout, Los Angeles Angels. 1 and 2 are debatable, but I'm putting Trout at 2 because the player that I have at number 1, I just think has more upside long-term than Trout, especially if the guy that number 1 goes to a certain team in free agency. But I still love Trout. He's the best player in baseball right now. He hits for a lot of power, he runs bases. He's a great defensive player. He hits for average. If he cuts down on strikeouts like Judge, I think he is complete as a player. But he's more complete than Judge because he's more proven than Judge, obviously. Number 1 on this list is Bryce Harper of the Washington Nationals. I just think he's a star. He's the biggest star in Major League Baseball, hands down, in my opinion. Say what you want. There's debatable. It's Mike Trout. It's debatable. It's Aaron Judge. But to me, the biggest star in baseball is easily Bryce Harper. He's a lock for the National League MVP, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to on the Nationals next year. He's either going to be a Dodger, a Yankee, or a Cub, in my opinion. Maybe even a Philly. But I think if he ends up on New York, he is going to be an absolute stud. And he's going to lead the league in homers and runs batted in and batting average and everything else with Aaron Judge for years to come if he goes to the Bronx. But I love Harper. Nobody has the upside that he has. He's a very energetic player. He's always enthusiastic. He always shows emotion when he's playing. And I think he's just outstanding. You could argue Trout for 1 because he's a more complete and well-rounded player than Harper. But I just am banking on Harper's upside. And Harper's younger than Trout. So that's why I'm taking Harper over Trout and Aaron Judge. That's my Major League Baseball trade value rankings. That's it for today's podcast. I'll come back tomorrow with my NBA awards, NBA trade value rankings, and a lot more. Obviously going to recap everything. Stanley Cup playoff hockey. Look ahead to the NBA playoff matchups a little bit. We'll talk Major League Baseball, any other NBA coaching firings that happen, or what else. Another note that I wanted to mention that's that the NFL preseason schedule came out. The NFL actual schedule is coming out next week. I'm going to do a special podcast regarding the NFL schedule. And I'm actually going to make predictions for the NFL schedule on one of these podcasts coming up. I don't know which one. I hope you guys have a great day, everybody.